So a little update on the last 543 valve. When I was on, right when I was leaving to go on vacation, the last day of work, truck was starting fine, everything was fine. It had been to 2 other shops, and it would act like it wanted to start and would just crank, and then it would sputter a little bit and then die, or maybe not even start. And this would happen 5 or 6 times in a row on this 2010 543 valve. And it would do it again and again and again and again. And then after messing with it for a while, the truck would start and run. It'd run good, no problem at all. What was happening is the fuel pump driver module was losing command from its control wire. And if you jump the circuits of the fuel pump driver module, it'd start every single time. But they put a new fuel pump driver module in it. It was a Dorman. I don't like Dorman fuel pump driver modules, but it was brand new, and it seemed to have been working. I compared it against an OEM one, same exact thing. It was doing the same crank, 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 and you'd have to do it for a while of messing with it in order for it to start. Now, I was leaving that day, and the customer said, look, if you need more time with it, you can go ahead and do your thing. Just keep the vehicle. I've got another vehicle right now. I'm not in a hurry. So I had to update the service writer. Like, look, I put a new pump in it, new fuel pump in it, because the last shop had told them they put the newest updated pump in the truck. They did not. There's a newer updated pump in the truck. The customer said, go ahead and do it. I had explained to them that was a starting point for me, because it seemed to have been losing fuel pressure shortly after starting. Key on, get up to about 55, 60 psi, and then all of a sudden it would drop off like a bat out of hell. Just the fuel pressure would just come down completely, like 20, 30 psi within a matter of like 10 seconds. And then it would slowly creep down after that. You know, so I thought maybe the pump, maybe the check valve was bleeding off. I checked all the injectors. The injectors wasn't the problem. It was because the fuel pump was having an intermittent control issue on the control side of the fuel pump driver module. And I had, told the service writer, I have no codes to go off of. I have nothing going on here, and I can't put more time into this vehicle right now. I'm leaving. I got to go home. I got to pack. We're leaving tomorrow. We're flying out to the Dominican Republic. I wish I could spend more time on it, but I really can't spend more time on it right now. So I leave, and one of my co-workers looked at it a couple days before I came back, and he said, yeah, I did the same thing you did. I checked fuel pressure. It was dropping off like crazy, so I noticed that. And then I switched it over to a Ford fuel pump driver module, and I noticed it was doing the same thing. But one of the times that I was switching between the Dorman fuel pump driver module and the Ford fuel pump driver module, it triggered a code for me to go off of on the control side of the fuel pump driver module. He said, I went from the Ford back to the Dorman, all of a sudden the code was triggered. And he said, I cleared it. I went back to the Ford fuel pump driver module. The code never would set again. I went back to the Dorman fuel pump driver module. The control circuit triggered again. So he said, I knew I had either a driver module problem, which it probably wasn't a driver module problem because it was doing it with the OEM one as well. It's just the aftermarket one is that much different, just that little bit different, to where it could see that there was an actual problem. So it would not flag the code with the Ford one, but it would intermittently flag a code, sometimes if you caught it correctly, with the Dorman aftermarket one. So he said what I did was I started looking at the wiring harness between where it comes along the outside of the frame rail on the driver's side, and it kind of goes back there and feeds the fuel pump and the rear lights and all that. And right where that first bend is that comes over the frame, right underneath the driver door on the frame rail up front, and comes outside the frame and has a nice little bend to it and comes back up and then goes back a little bit and then tucks itself back underneath the front or on the other side of the frame. I opened up that area right there, and I was looking in there to see if something was going on, and he said, sure enough, as soon as I opened up that loom, there was one broken wire completely, and once I touched the other wire, it finished breaking the rest of the way. And he said all I did was just cut those 2 sections of bad wire out, soldered in 2 new wires. Truck ran like it was brand new. That was the fix for that 2010 543 valve that we just had in the shop that we thought we had fixed. But the moment the customer came to pick it up, it started for me every single time after putting that new updated fuel pump in there. But the moment the customer came to pick it up, would not start. Luckily, I have good co-workers that are good at diagnostics, and they get just as involved as I do sometimes. And one of my co-workers was able to pick it up and find out what the customer's issue was. That's why I love working where I work, because I would have found it eventually. I just didn't have the time to put into it, and I had made it very clear I need to start somewhere. So if you paid somebody to put an updated pump in this, they did not put an updated pump in this. They didn't even put the tubes and everything snap back into the case or where they go on top of the fuel tank. All that stuff looks like it was old. It looks like it wasn't, didn't look like anything was changed, to be honest with you. So I was able to get a new updated pump in it, and my co-worker was able to find the 2 broken wires on the frame rail right underneath the driver's side on that 543 valve. So, and that is a common spot, not only for just like the old 543 valves, but that's a bad spot from Ford since the beginning of time, where they take that harness that goes to the rear of the truck and they run it up and over the frame rail to the outside, and then they have a nice swooping bend. It goes down the frame rail and right back behind the frame rail again, right in that bend, all the way up until like the new, what was the one I recently found? It was like a 2016 or 2015, 16, or 17 F150 2.7 liter, and it kept flagging fuel tank pressure sensor codes, and I started opening that frame, that harness and stuff in the frame right there, and sure enough found a broken wire inside that frame. It's a bad spot that in that wiring harness where they route that and how they do it. So that's the story on the 543 valve that was recently on the channel. That's what ended up fixing the no start, or intermittent, elongated, multiple time cranking no start condition. Y'all be blessed.